Sable, developed by Shedworks and published by Raw Fury, is a refreshing, indie, open-world adventure with a strong focus on exploration, discovery, and a healthy dose of self-discovery. All of this without any combat or risk of death. It stands in contrast to most games, offering no real character progression, no impetus to systematically clear regions, and no immediate threat to tackle. Yet, despite the low stakes, Sable made for a more compelling experience than 95% of the open-world games released over the last 15 years. Unfortunately, for a game so dependent on immersing you in its world, technical issues do their best to ruin the experience. Sable puts you in control of the titular character as she leaves her tribe to embark on the gliding. It's a coming-of-age pilgrimage, which sees adolescents temporarily gifted with a hoverbike, both named and treated with reverence, and the literal ability to glide, or the power of the perpetual, before they head out into the arid wastes. Sable's task is to discover and interact with other tribes and assist adults in their respective professions. Doing so will earn her guild badges, allowing her to forge a mask representative of that profession, after she obtains 3 of them, after which she must return to her tribe, give up her gifts, and commit to a future profession. Sable is both excited but also uncertain of her abilities, and this is reflected in the excellent and often humorous writing, which covers both direct dialogue and her internal thoughts. Sable is young but helpful, internally confident but outwardly awkward. If that all sounds like a daunting proposition, it is, but it provides the narrative backbone for a low-risk journey of discovery to distant corners of a diverse map, packed with quirky characters, stunning natural features, the ruins of an ancient civilization, and more recent spaceship wrecks. Sable is one of those rare games that allow you to just pick a direction and go, a game in which soaking up incredible vistas before setting course for distant structures is all part of the appeal. Sable's task is not to fulfill some preordained destiny, or take up some chosen one mantle, or even defeat a great threat. Rather, she's out to learn about the world, its history, the people in it, while trying to find her own place within it. There's plenty of lore to discover, some enlightening and some foreboding, but ultimately, the more you explore, the more it feels like you're gathering knowledge that Sable and the tribes could one day use to return to the stars. To say too much more about the story does a disservice to its exploration-driven gameplay. That said, Sable is not an aimless game. You're advised on where to visit first, there's a quest log, and most missions have map markers. However, it is a game that gives back as much as you put in. If you want to learn more about the planet's original inhabitants, you can assist the mechanists in exploring ancient ruins. If you want to learn about your spacefaring predecessors, you can assist the scrappers in looting spaceship wrecks. You can help guards solve crime in the large city of Ecria to discover more about societal structure, tackle the daunting climb to cartographer balloons to claim their badge, or simply earn enough cuts to purchase merchant badges. As soon as Sable forges her first mask, she can return to the tribe and end her gliding at any time, but the world is begging to be explored, and hidden knowledge is waiting to be discovered. When it comes to the gameplay loop, Sable's relative simplicity is both a strength and a weakness. You can run, jump, and glide, climb any natural surface and select man-made surfaces, stamina meter permitting, lug around small objects, think seed pods and power cores, engage in limited dialogue with NPCs, and, of course, cruise the dunes on your hoverbike. There is a collectathon type quest that boosts your maximum stamina, and you can purchase new hoverbike components, which affect things like speed, acceleration, and handling. But all the abilities you need to completely explore the world are there from the get-go. It was initially odd not to have a progression-driven gameplay loop, but ultimately it felt liberating. You're never locked out of a quest, or unable to reach a location, due to arbitrary requirements. Hoverbike parts aren't essential, and faction clothing simply exists to let you roleplay. Sure, some upgrades may make the journey quicker, but there's always a path forward at any moment. Traversal challenges revolve around lengthy platforming sections, which require you to identify safe routes, with visual cues of course, and often require a degree of timing. This is especially true when exploring spaceship wrecks, which are often crashed in awkward orientations, full of moving parts, and offer only a limited number of climbable surfaces. These cavernous ships and sprawling ancient ruins function as small puzzle dungeons, often combining platforming with basic puzzling, think activating switches, hauling around batteries, and dealing with physics-based objects. There are some standout quests in spectacular locations, but you'll be doing the same variation of puzzle repeatedly, and this becomes noticeable the longer you play. On the upside, Sable moves at a brisk pace, and a playthrough, tackling everything but the one quest that required unmarked collectibles, took me just under 15 hours to complete. With a world designed around vast spaces and distinctive landmarks, Sable is a much tighter experience than you might expect, given the premise and apparent size of the map. You can often see a place of interest from afar, and the map automatically updates with new locations you can fast travel back to. If you manage to reach a cartographer, their detailed maps make it even easier to spot ruins and man-made structures that you can aim for. Getting there on your hoverbike takes time, but exploring a new area is often a cathartic task when paired with the audio-visual experience. These are moments that allow you to truly soak up the scale of the environments and these ancient wrecks and ruins. The environment, and everything in it, feels handcrafted, with striking visuals that rely on simple flat textures, but with contrasting pastel colours and sharp lines for detail. When exploring the spaceship wrecks, these cold, sterile environments use metallic whites and grey, with harsh blue and red neon lighting, all of which stand in sharp contrast to the vibrant desert. Most animations look good, aside from perhaps dismounting the hoverbike, but Sable and other characters move through the world at a lower frame rate than the rest animates, like a Japanese limited animation technique, and I always found it strangely off-putting. The soundtrack, composed by indie rock group Japanese Breakfast, is mostly instrumental, aside from the title and credit tracks, but it excels at generating an atmosphere befitting of the lonely but vibrant desert environments and the bustling tribal settlements you'll encounter. Although there was no actual danger, several moody and unsettling tracks, coupled with loud and intimidating ambient audio, perfectly complement the more ominous locations, like deep caves and cavernous spaceship holds. Unfortunately, Sable is plagued by technical issues that frequently break immersion. Despite taking up just over 2 GB, enough to fit entirely in the RAM on an old OG Xbox One, the game stuttered constantly when playing on Xbox Series S and PC. It doesn't even seem to be an issue with the rendering load, as the issue is most prominent when cruising on a border between 2 distinct regions. The game stutters, objects pop in and out, textures in the skybox invert colors or simply turn black, while the controls can become unresponsive, something that's particularly annoying when you're climbing. The experience was moderately better on PC, even using an older gaming notebook that should in theory have been surpassed by my Xbox Series S, but these issues remain. On top of these issues, the hoverbike can be an unruly beast, irrespective of the upgrades you acquire, capable of spinning and clipping into the terrain or flipping about 180 degrees after just gently brushing a rock. This becomes a major issue when exploring any region with rocky outcrops, dense vegetation, or petrified trees. Many a spectacular cruise into regions unknown was ruined by both these issues, breaking my sense of immersion. A patch is desperately needed, as this is one of the few issues I have with this game. To Sable's credit, even these technical issues couldn't dampen my love of the experience. Over several nights, I lost myself exploring these vast and diverse deserts, clambered through the wrecks of spaceships, delved into the ruins of an ancient civilization, and returned to outposts to turn in quests and purchase upgrades for my hoverbike. Despite the limited mechanics and brief length, Sable's reactions to the people she met and her internal dialogue provided more characterization than hours of lavish cutscenes. Everything you experience feels larger than life, ensuring your ending choice feels important. It made returning to the Ewa camp more poignant than I expected, and, when the end of her gliding drew near, I changed back into traditional tribal gear, and took a final ride through the desert back to the camp as the sun rose. Few games affect me enough to make a ceremony out of finishing them, so Sable comes highly recommended, despite its current technical flaws that can hopefully be patched out.